I'd like to call the October meeting of the Lenoir County Board of Education to order, please. I'd like to welcome everyone, and I will recognize Mr. Nick Harvey for our invocation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let us pray. May the words spoken in this room tonight be beneficial to the students, parents, staff, and administrators in our school system. And may we be led by the guiding principle to always base our decisions on the best interests of our young people. Amen.
Everyone, please stand and join me in the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will ask our clerk of court, Mrs. Dawn Stroud, to present our oath of office to Mr. Bogan.
Place your left hand on the Bible, raise your right hand, please.
I, Richard Bogan,
Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, so help me God.
I will.
I
Richard Bogan,
do further solemnly and sincerely swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina and to the constitutional powers and authorities which are or may be established for the government thereof, and that I will endeavor to support, maintain, and defend the Constitution of said state, not consistent with the Constitution of the United States, to the best of my knowledge and ability, so help me God.
I will.
I
Richard Bogan,
do swear that I will well and truly execute the duties of the office of Lenoir County Board of Education, according to the best of my skill and ability, and according to law, so help me God.
I will.
Congratulations.
Welcome, Mr. Bogan,
Thank you.
and I hope you're ready to go to work.
I am.
Great, thank you. Now I will recognize Mr. Williams, approval of agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the Board of Education, tonight it is my honor and privilege to present to you for your consideration and hopefully approval of tonight's agenda.
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
Mr. Smith and Mr. Hill. Any further discussion? I'll call for the vote. All in favor of the agenda, please raise your right hand. And the motion carries. Thank you. I just have a couple things as board chair comments. I know Mr. Harvey and Superintendent Williams will be discussing some of our hurricane recovery and what went on during the hurricane. But I would just like to say thank you to our leadership team, our school staffs, our parents, our students, our bus personnel, our maintenance personnel, and also community volunteers for what they did to get our schools ready so that our students could go back. I know it was a push to get there on Wednesday for staff and Thursday for students, but I do appreciate it, and once again, thank you very much to all of you. And second thing, on a little lighter note, I'd also like to thank Mr. Patrick Holmes and his wife, Superintendent Williams, and Ms. Jessica Scheimer for allowing me to participate Saturday in the Stuff the Bus event, which was my first time, at Walmart. We had a beautiful, shiny, brand new bus, and from what Mr. Holmes said, we took in a lot of donated items. I thought it was a lot. He said we did really well. We had folks there from Greene County donating to Lenoir County, which was nice to see. Several people from Greene County there. I got to see folks, I was there 4 hours. I got to see folks I haven't seen in a long time. Got to see folks I might have seen last week. I also got to see folks that I told Mr. Williams I had no idea who it was. They came up, said I hadn't seen in a long time, and I had no idea who it was. Thank you for doing that, and it was a wonderful event. I encourage anyone to go out next time we have that and participate. It was a joy, and it was really fun. So thank you again for allowing me to participate. And with that said, I'm done with my announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As Mr. King said, the Stuff the Bus event at Walmart Saturday was a great success. We've had many Stuff the Bus type events over the years. What I think was particularly wonderful about this one is certainly coming after after Hurricane Florence and all the recovery that we're all going through, and so many of our citizens suffering still. And Mr. Harvey's going to talk about that in his recovery presentation tonight. But it was just really heartwarming to see so many people out there and bringing up school supplies, and some brought it up straight from the community, and some brought in the school supplies after going to Walmart. And I want to say a special note of thanks to Mr. Holmes, who organized all of that. Thank you to Mr. King for coming and staying the full time. He had signed up for a block of time, as had I, and he stayed the entire time, so I thank you for that. But also the management at Walmart, our local Walmart, we are greatly appreciative to them. They not only made a substantial donation, but encouraged everyone in attendance. If you were at Walmart on Saturday, you were encouraged, because they made sure they set up 2 big bins by the doors, and those have stayed up and active through today, actually, through the end of today. So we thank them. October is National Principal Appreciation Month. We want to celebrate our principals for all that they are and all that they do for our young people and the staff members and community that they lead every single day. They do an outstanding job. We're very proud of them. So to our principals here, all of our principals are here tonight. Can we give them a round of applause? October is also National Breast Cancer Awareness Month. You'll see a lot of pink in our schools this month at our sporting events like Friday night. They have the pink out there, many events like that, and in the overall community as well to raise awareness about breast cancer, particularly the importance of testing and early detection. And we partner with many community entities like our hospital and health department in those efforts. Hurricane Florence, since our last meeting, as we all know all too well, this community has been through quite a bit and still continues to go through that as we're in the process of recovery. But amid all the suffering, amid all the damage, and we were fortunate, more fortunate this time than we were during Hurricane Matthew, but everything's comparative and relative. If your home is damaged or destroyed, then it doesn't matter that the overall community suffered less, this time, suffered less than during Hurricane Matthew. But we learned a lot of lessons during Matthew about preparation, about preparedness, and about how to approach the process. The process doesn't always touch people, but it can help to prepare for what's going to happen. And it doesn't lessen what might happen, but it can help you be ready to respond to that, and certainly on the recovery end, on the back end. I do want to say that amid all of the damage and the suffering and the struggle to recover, I have been uplifted substantially by talking to so many of our community members who have had a consistent spirit of resilience and a truly inspiring level of optimism about not only the next steps, short term, but also our long term potential for recovery. And the spirit, the collective spirit and the individual spirit of those with whom I've spoken has been unconditionally positive and uplifting, not only in our school system, but also in the larger community. So that certainly, as a school system leader and a community leader, has been a blessing. I want to thank all of our teachers and staff members, our students, our administrators, our parents, and our overall community leaders, city and county leadership, departments and agencies, especially emergency management, emergency services, DSS, Red Cross, City Council, the Board of Commissioners, all of the people who played roles, law enforcement, everybody who played a role in helping not only to prepare, but to go through the storm, to weather the storm, and then to begin the process of recovery. For some, that will be a very long process. I'm very pleased that our schools got in their first full week back this past week. We had a good week, and we had a good day today, and we'll continue to do that. As you know, the specter looms for the end of the week, but we're going to be fine. And we'll get through whatever happens and whatever comes, and hopefully it won't be much, but it could be, but we're going to be ready. Mr. Harvey will talk about that in his presentation. Please do join me, however, in continuing to keep those districts around us that still are not back in school, that do have devastated schools from the flooding, from some of the wind damage there, and the actual integrity of the school buildings has been compromised, and some of them are just not usable. Not now, and maybe not in the near future, and they keep pushing back their restart dates. Let's continue to keep them in our thoughts and prayers as we all move forward, and are continue to be thankful, and we continue to be thankful for being back in school ourselves. Regarding makeup days, as you know, the North Carolina sent all board members that information last week, as did the School Boards Association. I sent it to all of our administrators, and we got it out to all of our staff members as well. The North Carolina General Assembly voted to waive up to 20 days in districts that were declared disaster area districts, and ours was one of those. So up to 20 days may be waived. Plus, they voted to give districts the flexibility to adjust calendars as needed. At this point, we have decided to convert one of our days. As you know from looking at the calendar, we only had one more teacher work day between now and the Christmas holidays. So if you take holidays, designated holidays off the table, we just had really one day to work with. So we've converted that day to it was a teacher work day, and we have voted to convert the October 22nd day to a regular student day. We missed a total of 11 days, and yes, that just gets us back one of those days, but at this point, with inclement weather predicted as soon as this week, serious weather events possible, we didn't feel like we could really look at making up any additional days at this point. None are required, but we were looking at that. But at this point, with more days and then the specter of winter weather as well, we really want to wait and see what happens, and we will bring calendar changes back to you as appropriate and as needed. This October 15th through the 19th, 2018 is National School Lunch Week. This year's theme is School Lunch, Lots to Love. Do you know that LCPS serves over 5,000 lunches per day? During this annual week-long celebration, all of our cafeterias will be decorated, and we'll have special menus for our students. Our cafeterias are offering new items such as Asian rice bowls, oven-fried shrimp, enchiladas, and egg rolls. And Ms. Smith, Ms. Daniel Smith is here, our Child Nutrition Director. I celebrate you for pushing the envelope and thinking outside the box with the menus. She's really tried. They've even surveyed students, and they've put in salad bars and so many options, packaged salads at schools that don't have salad bars, and really trying to look at different things. They've experimented with beans. I saw the large black beans on a line a couple years ago, and my son said, "Dad, what are you doing?" But Ms. Smith is trying really hard, and she's listened to the kids. She brought back a kid favorite, Sloppy Joe. So she's really trying hard to hit that good balance between the strongest nutritional options possible and that which kids are willing to eat. So there's a balance in there. So we celebrate you, Ms. Smith, and all of your staff members, not only during that week, but also every day. Thank you for what you're doing. It's my pleasure tonight to recognize some of our teachers for their accomplishments. Teachers at 2 schools have won national grant awards that will provide enhanced learning activities for all of their students. A grant was written by Jessica Jones of Woodington Middle School, and it resulted in $1,200 being awarded to the school's FFA chapter, and that was, a new Ag Ed program there, just a couple of years into that, right, Ms. Philippi? And already a national grant, and it will be used to create and upgrade butterfly gardens in the Pink Hill Park in all 3 feeder elementary schools. So to Miss Jessica Jones, we say congratulations. And at Pink Hill School, and we'll have Miss Jones come forward in just a minute, and at Pink Hill Elementary School, teachers Brenda Griffin and Caitlin Ball Burris and the school's grant committee, which consisted of Benna Miller, Allison Whitfield, and Christine Tripp, wrote and won $3,000 from the Dollar General Literacy Grant. The grant will encourage STEAM, and that's regular STEM with an A added for the arts, so STEAM learning, and also will provide novels and materials for STEAM extension activities following the studies of the novels. So we'll begin with Mrs. Jones from Whittington Middle School, and again her $1,200 grant, and we'll have Ms. Jones come forward, and I'll ask our chair, Mr. King, and our vice chair, Mr. Hill, if you'll help me in presenting certificate to Ms. Jones, and then after that we'll be calling up our Pink Hill staff members and we'll recognize them as well. Congratulations, sir.
Okay, 1, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Ms. Caitlin Ball Burris, if you'd come forward, and Ms. Brenda Griffin, Ms. Benna Miller, and Ms. Christine Tripp.
Bunch up there. You're good. All right. 1, 3. 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. Great. Thank you.
Ladies, your certificates will be on the way as well. All right, Mr. Chairman, thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Now we come to the public participation part of our agenda, and we do have some tonight. And before we begin, I'd like to read, in accordance with Board Policy 2310, public participation at board meetings, the board has established time for public comment during the period noted on the board agenda. In order to address the board, you must sign up prior to 6 p.m. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per presenter and 12 minutes on any given topic. Items for discussion must be appropriate for open session, and no one will be heard in open session regarding student or employee matters. The chairperson reserves the right to limit discussion on any topic to designated spokespersons. And I will ask Mr. Shive if he will keep our 3-minute time, please.
Yes.
And our first speaker will be Ms. Kimberly Cobb.
Good afternoon. First of all, I would like to thank you all for letting me take the time today to speak and discuss my concerns. My name is Kim. Mr. Richard, this is nothing personal today. I'm just trying to get a clear clarification and understanding. I was here last time when each candidate gave their educational background, their experience, and their views on the public school system. There were 2 strong females that were well educated. One had her doctoral degree, and the other one was in school obtaining her doctoral degree. Both ladies have worked in the school system for numerous of years. They both now teach on the college level. I will not say the full name of these candidates, but I will give their initials, which are WW and H. WW outshine all the candidates. She was on point. She answered all questions intelligently. She answered the question of the whys better than all the candidates, and her articulation was great. Her vision of the North County Public Schools were on point, and she had knowledge of what was taking place in the school system in today's time. There was also D.E., a male candidate. He was well educated and also had knowledge of what is taking place in the school system today. The fourth candidate had been an assistant superintendent, and all presentations were good. But however, the fifth candidate, who won the seat, had the least education of all the candidates, had no work experience in the school system with the exception of PTA and Boy Scout involvement. During his presentation, he said that Sergeant John told me to apply. His presentation, in my opinion, was not as strong as any of the other candidates. I just have one question for the board today. Can you tell me what is the basis, how did y'all come to the decision of who held the chair?
Normally, it's the board's policy not to respond to public comment during the public comment
Okay.
session, so
Yes, sir.
it receives comments from the public, but does not itself respond.
Okay. Thank you for allowing me this time.
Thank you, Ms. Cobb. Next will be Ms. Julia Tripp.
Thank you for having me. I was asked to come to speak tonight, and it's not anything of what I thought it would be. So what I was going to say is not what I'm going to say. I do feel, though, that education to teach or to participate in the education of children is very important. I'm not native to this state. I'm a military child. I traveled everywhere. Education systems are different in many places than they are here. I went to school overseas. I went to school in several states. And when I came to this state, the education level here was lower. And I went to school in a good county. Was lower than anywhere I've ever been. And so I do feel that those that teach or participate with children should have an education themselves. I chose not to send my child to the public school in any part of this state. His first education was in a private school. I decided that was not even up to par. I brought him home, and I homeschooled him. I've been a registered nurse for 31 years, so I'm not uneducated myself. All of his grades went up, and his grade level went up. And I feel that the part of that is not that I was so bright, but that I did have some education and could teach him. And I just feel like people who are involved, experience counts for some things, it does. A lot of my nursing career, I learned from experience, so that does count. But I do think when somebody puts themselves forward into an education system and gets a doctoral, a PhD, or anything like that, that is their focus, just like my nursing. My nursing has been for the elderly, my 31 years as a nurse. And when you're focused on one thing, you're going to stay with that one thing, and you're going to do a good job. And I thank you for having me, and it's nothing against you. Like I say, it's not what I thought it was going to be, but that is my thoughts on somebody being in an education system or serving a board, and maybe someone else had some sort of education. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Tripp. And our third and last speaker will be Eldris Barbara Sutton.
Hi to each of you. I am grateful to the board for allowing me to speak also. My name is Barbara Sutton. I'm here tonight on behalf of Christ the Caring Ministries. Christ the Caring Ministry has a youth tutoring program that teaches the value, the benefits, and formula to a successful life. I was present when each of the 5 applicants gave their presentation. I was also present on last Thursday night when the voting took place. The formula that Christ the Caring Ministry used in order to teach our children the value of education is Jesus plus education plus good behavior plus respect equals success. While we also acknowledge that all will not go to college, as we realize there are other positive paths that one can take that will lead to success. However, when one do attain higher education and they graduate, they should reap the benefits. For education has a value that lasts a lifetime. The decision that was made in the selection of the person to fill the vacancy messes with one of the very components in the formula that Christ the Caring Ministry used in order to teach our youth success, and that component was education. Now, the board knows what Christ the Caring Ministry formula is, which is Jesus plus education plus good behavior plus respect equals success. And in everything that we all do in life, there's a reason for our decision. I do know that the board had a formula in which they went about to choose the applicant in which they did. And so as you know what our formula is that we work with our youth, I ask you, what was the formula that was used in your selecting the person that you did? And it's nothing personal against the applicant, because the applicant did not vote for himself, but the board did. It seems to me that the board that represents education did not give respect to the educated applicants. However, I feel, since you sit in those seats and you represent education, education should have been one of the determining factor. Again, I ask you, what was your formula? Surely you had a formula, but your formula did not include education plus direct work experience in the school system. Again, thank you for having me.
Thank you, Ms. Sutton. We will now move on to the presentation portion of our agenda, and I'll recognize Mrs. Herring for our NC STAR plans.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and board. This is the board meeting where we present to the board the school improvement plans that each school and their school improvement teams have created. And as you know, and for some that are new, our school improvement plans are in a platform called NC STAR. So it's an online database. There are 12 objectives that have to be regularly kept going. The meetings for the school improvement team are twice a month, and the minutes are kept, and it's very closely monitored. We presented, the schools presented to the Central Services team all of their school improvement plans over the course of the last almost 3 weeks. The hurricane, of course, interrupted us. And Mr. Anderson was kind enough to be at almost all of them. We appreciate that. He joined us last year. And it's at this time that I explained to you the documents that you have. The process, the schools will present their plans to us, and we work with them to, we ask clarifying questions, we make sure that everything is meets all the requirements for the state, and then we present them to you, and you have them for 30 days to review, and we're presenting them to you this evening. I will not present all 17 of them to you individually tonight. That is a tremendous amount of information. But I will, and I know everyone's really happy about that, but I will go over common themes for you all to please look at over the course of this month as you're reviewing the plans. Now, I know that if you looked at your agenda, there's quite a lot of uploaded documents under this presentation item. So I want to explain to you what you have so that you maybe have a better way to tackle this monumental task of reviewing the school improvement plans. You've been given a comprehensive plan for all 17 schools. Now, the comprehensive plan is an incredibly long document. For some schools, it could be upwards of 60 pages. But it's the school improvement plan as it exists in NC STAR from the implementation of the system. So we, Lenore County Public Schools went to NC STAR in 2016, all 17 schools. So the plan is an ongoing document. And so you have the comprehensive plan for every school. You also have a goal summary for every school. And that is more or less a 1 or 2 page document. It's also downloaded from NC STAR, but what it is just a list of the 12 goals that the school is working towards every month. So it's sort of a condensed list of the goals for each school. And then the last set of documents you have are executive summaries from every school. And these are documents that are created at the school and district level. There is so much information in the comprehensive plans, and the goals are very specific. So we thought it would be helpful if each principal, with the help of their school improvement team, wrote an executive summary for you. It is a summary of the strengths that they've identified based on the data from the last school year. What are they doing well? And then they were asked to identify what are the weaknesses or points for additional assistance, and what are they doing to address those issues. And so that is a document that is created here. That is not a state level document. So you have 17 comprehensive plans, 17 goal summaries, and 17 executive summaries. I would probably start with the executive summaries. I think that would be most helpful. And then work your way through the goal summary of the comprehensive plan, as you see deem fit. But it is a lot of material. I have pulled, there are some common themes that as you're reviewing each of the plans, I think you'll find these are points of information that you'll find in all of them. There's going to be a reference to the district's study on poverty and its impact on student learning. For the last 2 years, we have been focusing on Eric Jensen's work on how poverty impacts student learning, and you'll find that will be a common theme through all 17 plans. The schools will also reference their use of professional learning communities, or PLCs. You might see them referred to as PLCs. And those PLCs exist to create and analyze common formative assessments. So you'll find discussion in the plans regarding common assessments and how the teachers are addressing the needs of the students immediately instead of waiting weeks to do so, finding corrective instruction. You'll also find an attention to creating a master schedule at the schools that meets identified needs of students. There's been an increased focus in the last 3 or 4 years to really focus on the master schedule to make sure it meets the needs of the students and not necessarily the needs of the grown-ups in the building. One of the things that's come out of creating a master schedule that meets the needs of students is you'll find some of the high schools will mention that they have year-long Math 1 classes that they've worked in the master schedule. Or they've been able to implement an ACT review. Your middle and elementary schools, with regard to the master schedule, might talk about push-in services, where they've scheduled teacher assistants and the elected teachers to spend time in every classroom to assist with instruction. You'll see reference in many of the plans to a mindset change or culture shift. It'll come across more as, I put in quotes here, do whatever it takes. Many of the schools have, and the data which I'll share with you in a moment, indicates that we are headed in a positive trajectory. We are making gains in growth and proficiency. And having a do whatever it takes culture and mindset is behind that. You'll find an emphasis on PBIS, which is positive behavior interventions and supports. And this will come across as a discussion on reduction in suspensions, the reduction of time spent in school suspension or bus referrals. PBIS has been in Lenore County Public Schools for many, many years, and it is an ingrained practice in Lenore County. It is nothing new. You've heard of it. We've presented on it, but it plays a pivotal role in the school improvement plans. You'll come across reference to MTSS, which is the multi-tiered system of support. And what this does is it focuses on the learning, the social, and the emotional needs of every student. And you will most likely hear or read a discussion about a Tier 1, a Tier 2, or a Tier 3 intervention. And that is referencing the MTSS approach to support. You'll probably come across importance of supporting beginning teachers. That was a common theme among all of the plans that were presented to us. The importance of providing additional support for our beginning teachers. You'll see it play out in maybe regularly scheduled meetings at the school level with their BTs. You might see it where our beginning teachers are given very specific actionable feedback on walkthroughs or in their lesson plans. But that is a common point of support that you'll find in the school improvement plans. You'll also come across opportunities to increase community and stakeholder engagement. And that's always an important piece to our school improvement plans. You'll see reference some of the schools that'll look different in most schools, and there'll be some things that'll be similar. But you'll see reference to maybe school staff outings into the community or increased PTA activities. And finally, you will see reference to increased engagement with our local industry and our community partnerships and the role that that takes in supporting and underscoring our curriculum with our students as low as elementary. So we've started, you'll see that in many of the school improvement plans. So as you're reading through them, if you have any questions at all, whether it's a point of clarification or an explanation of a reference, please don't hesitate to contact us, and we'll be more than happy to assist you in any way that we can. Again, it is a lot of information. I do recommend that you start with the executive summaries, and I've named them with the school and the executive summaries so you know which documents to go to. So I think you'll find those most helpful. Are there any questions now that I can answer?
I looked at a few. That's a tremendous amount of reading.
It is. Yes, sir. It is.
Thank you, Mrs. Herring.
Yes, sir.
We'll stay with Mrs. Herring and look at official accountability results.
Yes. So, next. At our last board meeting, Mr. Corey, our Director of Accountability and Testing, presented preliminary accountability and testing results with you. They've now been approved by the state board and are official. So I'm just going to go over them with you again briefly, but of course if you have any questions to go on, please don't hesitate to stop me. I just want to identify some growth trends starting as far back as 2015. We had 2 schools in 2015 that increased their growth designation, and you know, there's proficiency and growth. Proficiency is what you score if you score a 3, 4, 5 on the EOG or EOC. Growth measures how much did the child came to a grade at a particular level, and how far did we grow that child's learning. So growth and proficiency are 2 different things, and I will reference both of them separately in the presentation. In 2016, we had 3 schools to increase their growth designation. In 2017, we had 5 schools that increased their growth designation. And last year in 2018, 15 of our 17 schools met or exceeded growth. I just want to go over some celebrations that come directly from the data. 15, I just mentioned, of our 17 schools met or exceeded growth expectations. 6 of our schools increased their school performance letter grade. E.B. Frank Middle and Woodington Middle School went from not meeting growth expectations in 16-17 to exceeding growth expectations in 17-18. 75% of our middle schools exceeded growth last year. 6 schools increased their growth designation from the year before, going from not met to met, or met to exceeds, or even not met to exceeds. And all of our elementary and middle schools met or exceeded growth. Our early college high school earned a school performance letter grade of an A, and that is the first A school Lenoir County Public Schools has celebrated. Lenoir County Learning Academy, LCLA, our alternative school, met growth for the first time in 17-18, and that's a very difficult thing to do given the fluidity of the students in and out of LCLA at semesters after 9 weeks. It fluctuates so much, so for them to have met growth is a tremendous accomplishment. We're very proud of that. Every middle and high school increased their proficiency. Now, the proficiency, not growth. So every middle and high school increased their proficiency. We decreased the low-performing designation from 8 schools to 5 in 16-17 to 17-18. And 66% of our elementary schools increased their proficiency. Our graduation cohort rate is really something to celebrate. In 16-17, we had 81.6% of our cohort, that was our graduation rate, and the cohort is following a group of students who start at the same time and stay together and graduate at the same time. In 17-18, we increased our graduation rate to 84.6%. Very proud of that. I'm going to go over growth very quickly with you. I've given you 3 years, 15-16, 16-17, and 17-18, to give you a trajectory. Our elementary schools, this is meeting or exceeding growth. This is not proficiency, but this is growth. And growth is important because you'll never get to proficiency if you're not meeting or exceeding growth. So you can see for elementary, all of our elementary schools met or exceeded growth in 17-18. And they did it last year as well. They have 3 years in a row, if you can see that. So we're very proud of the growth in our elementary schools. Our middle school growth report put CSS in sort of a separate box since it's kindergarten through 8th grade. But it did not meet growth in 15-16, met growth in 16-17, and this last year they exceeded growth. Frank, Rochelle, and Woodington all met or exceeded growth in 17-18. And we're very proud of Frank and Woodington, they did not meet in 16-17 growth expectations and then jumped to exceeded. The high school growth report. Kinston High School and North Lenoir are without a doubt within range of meeting growth next year. They didn't meet it this year, but they were closer than they were the year before. And we're definitely on track to meet expectations, to meet the growth expectation next year. Lenoir County Early College High School went from not met in 16-17 to meet. And South Lenoir exceeded growth in 16-17 and met in 17-18. And I mentioned earlier, Lenoir County Learning Academy, our alternative school, met growth expectations in 17-18. This is proficiency. So this is, did we make a 3, 4, or 5 on the EOC or EOG? So this is testing. This is what happened at the end of the year. So what I put in parentheses was the percentage proficient in 16-17. And what is next to it in green, with the exception of 4th grade, is what the percentage of proficiency is for 17-18. So you can see that we have increased proficiency in reading, math, and science in every grade except 4th grade at district level. And we weren't far off, but we are looking at practices in the 4th grade to identify what that is about. But we are very excited about the overall district proficiency in elementary, in reading, math, and science, all increasing. The district proficiency in high school. English 2 and biology both increased from 16-17. We did see a dip in the Math 1 scores from 16-17 to 17-18. And when you are reviewing the school improvement plans, that is addressed in the high school's school improvement plans. Where am I, middle school? No, that's it. 3rd through 8th, and then high school. Okay. This is breaking down the gains and losses for you. So by school. So we had tremendous gains. We had losses in 3 of our elementary schools between the 16-17 and 17-18 school year. And I encourage you to pull this presentation when you're reviewing the school improvement plans, and you should be able to find in their school improvement plan where they've addressed any gains or losses between the 16-17 and 17-18 school year, and how they are addressing that. Middle schools, the proficiency was a gain in all of our middle schools from the year before. So we're very excited about that. And high school proficiency was overall a very positive trend. We had gains in all of our high schools, except North Lenoir had a very small loss between 16-17 and 17-18. And I encourage you to, that is addressed in the school improvement plan, and there'll be a plan in place to address that. So please note that. Our overall district proficiency has increased the last 3 years. So we know what we're doing is the right thing. We know that our non-negotiables that we put in place 4 years ago are working. And it just encourages us to stay the course and stay focused on the main thing, and the main thing is instruction. And we're very, very proud of the hard work our teachers and our principals have done to work towards this goal. And again, this is keep the main thing the main thing. Are there any questions about the data presentation?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I like the presentation, but how do we come out versus the state average?
So I can pull that. I have the state average. I just didn't include it in that, but I'll be happy to provide that to the board. Yes, sir. Any other questions?
Thank you, Mrs. Herring.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, now I'll recognize Mr. Harvey for operational impact from our hurricane.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I begin tonight, I want to share with you what we learned after Hurricane Matthew. We learned that anytime there's a weather event as significant as Hurricane Florence, there are 5 phases to the storm. 1, there's preparation. 2, there's a response, recovery, and then mitigation. We are in the recovery phase. We know, and I've shared with the principals as EMS has shared with us, the recovery phase is the hardest and the longest phase. We will be in the recovery phase for some time. Tonight, I will share with you a very preliminary report on where we stand after Hurricane Florence. From a student services perspective, as of today, there are still 61 students that are displaced. The positive in that 61, we're not, as you recall, after Hurricane Matthew, we ran numerous shuttles to adjacent counties to get our students back in school. We are not running shuttles today. Our students have been displaced to other homes within our district. And this will show you our enrollment before Florence and post Florence. So we're actually up 32 students post Florence. So our social workers, our principals, our teachers, our parents, Mr. Holmes, they've done an outstanding job of reaching out to our parents so they would let us know where they are so we can provide transportation to and from school so they would not be out of school more than necessary. So from a student services perspective, if you recall, we were at about 200 students that were displaced after Matthew. So very less significant in the area of student services as far as displacement than Matthew. Facilities. I caution you, this is a preliminary report. Our principals have done a yeoman's job of sending their damage reports to my office, to me and Ms. Hines, to let us know where they stand. This report will not show you ceiling tiles. We need 2,000 ceiling tiles in our district to replace every ceiling tile that was lost due to the storm. I tell you, there isn't a ceiling tile from a vendor in North Carolina right now. All of the school districts in eastern North Carolina need ceiling tiles. So you won't see those items. So it is preliminary. These are our major items, and there are more. There will be more. Our principals are finding stuff now, weeks post-storm, that needs to be addressed in our school. We were at South North High School today, and we noticed something else in their auditorium. So all of those items have to be and will be addressed. And I thank our principals for sending that information to my office, and we're getting them addressed as quickly as possible. What I will present to you tonight are some of our major issues. There are roof damages at North Lenore, South Lenore. I'm giving you an estimate there. Also at Southwood and Rochelle. We know there's carpet damage in the library at Southwood. There will be others as well. 2 major sinkholes. I notified the board this week of a game change from North Lenore High School while their game was changed because their football field is still in the process of being repaired. So we'll show you that pictures of that tonight. And we had numerous landscaping issues, trees down, limbs down. So we are gathering all of the information now. We actually meet with FEMA tomorrow, and that process, we've already started that process as much as we can do via the online portal, but tomorrow we have a face-to-face meeting with FEMA that now give us better direction of how to recover some of our losses. But right now, just a preliminary number, over $450,000 just in our major issues. That is not including ceiling tiles, cleaning supplies, and other items that will be reported on the final report to our insurance carrier, which is DPI. Last year when I presented the preliminary report, we were only at $195,000 for Matthew. So a much more significant storm in the area of losses, maybe not in water damage or flood damage, but definitely more wind damage. You see our deductibles for wind damage from the Department of Public Instruction. If you recall last year or in 2016, any flood damage, and flood is defined as anything that falls to the sky and then enters your building, that's considered a flood. Wind damage is when the roof maybe causes water to come in from the sky and then land inside the facility. That's only a $5,000 deductible. So hopefully we'll be in much better shape as far as the deductible, but we will report all of our issues to the Department of Public Instruction for the recovered damages. I have shown you, I provided for you a few pictures of some of our sites. That's the stage at Woodington Middle School. They had ceiling damage over their stage. South Lenore High School had significant roof damage over their gymnasium and their T&I building. We had experts in the T&I building today at South Lenore High School, so we're waiting to hear those reports. That's a picture of the roof damage at South Lenore. Also South Lenore High School. North Lenore High School, again, their auditorium did receive flood damage. I provided a picture that almost looks identical to the picture Mr. Rest shared with us in 2016. That is not a picture from 2016. That is a 2018 photo. So we pulled that carpet up, and we're hoping to mitigate that issue as quickly as possible. This is the sinkhole, also at North Lenore High School that I referenced. They had a drainage system that actually failed because of the inundation of water and caused us to cancel sporting activities, football and soccer at North Lenore High School. That project is near completion. Hopefully it will be completed by the end of the week, weather permitting. Southwood has significant damage in their media center. We've pulled the carpet in their media center. They had, Ms. Hill was here, I think I saw her come in. They had significant damage, water damage because of a roof failure over the media center at Southwood. So that will need to be addressed as well. We've had our roof vendors on our school sites. DPI is scheduled to come this week. Brian Hood is our insurance carrier. Hopefully Brian will be boots on the ground this week so we can go ahead and approve our vendors to get this work started as quickly as possible. Rochelle Middle School also had significant damage in areas of their school, specifically the 6th grade hallway, what was formerly the 6th grade hallway, the new wing off their library. So that's where the significant issues were there. That's also water in their gym as well from a leak. I could show you pictures and I can share those files with you at your pleasure. All of our principals have sent pictures, narratives. They've done an outstanding job of sending every need from their school post Hurricane Florence. I'll be glad to share that with the board at your pleasure. But we can spend a lot of time tonight showing you pictures and reading narratives from them. But we all have that information, and that information will be shared with DPI and our insurance carrier and with FEMA if necessary. Transportation, the bus garage sustained minor flood damage. If you recall, after Matthew, there was approximately 33 inches of water in the transportation facility. This year, the water mark was 6 inches. All vehicles and equipment were moved to higher ground prior to the event, resulting in millions of dollars saved. That's the mitigation. That's the final phase. We learned that we must mitigate as much as we can mitigate. Our transportation director, Mr. Mitchell, our maintenance director, Mr. Outlaw, did an outstanding job. Mr. White, our interim technology director, did an outstanding job of mitigating losses by sending information out, moving equipment, what have you, to mitigate our losses. And that did result in saving millions of dollars of bus, car, vehicle, technology equipment. So that's the mitigation phase. We have learned from these events, and we will continue to learn from Florence. As I said, technology vehicles were also moved to higher ground. And as a result of the 6 inches of water in the transportation facility, minor drywall work and the cleaning of the facility has been completed. They were back in transportation the day the teachers reported back. We had a contingency plan to move them, maybe even back to Teachers Memorial. We did not have to enact that plan because our folks were on it. And as I say that, many of our maintenance workers, our technology workers, our principals, our finance department, they were in their buildings. One, payroll, it was payroll week, so we wanted to make sure everybody was paid what they were owed, but also they were in those buildings even when some did not have power in their own homes. So I can't thank them enough for their efforts to ensure that we could get school open as quickly as possible and safe for everyone to return. That's a picture of from some of our transportation department. A very happy group. The forecast was dark and bleak, but they were very happy to get back in that building as quickly as they were able to do so, and they cleaned that building admirably well, as they always do. Technology, if you recall last year, we had about $50,000 or more in technology losses, whether it was phones, iPads, what have you. We learned, we mitigated those areas, and right now we're reporting the Bell system and intercom system at Rochelle Middle School, and it's approximately $7,500. There may be some other losses, but right now that's what we're showing, and we'll update the board as they come in. Child nutrition, another area. I want to thank Ms. Danielle Smith and her team. Did an outstanding job of mitigating losses in the child nutrition department. If you recall, last year it was over actually over $200,000 when it was all said and done of losses in our child nutrition department. If you recall, we had a food delivery the Wednesday before the storm, before Matthew. This year, we canceled that food delivery. We mitigated and moved food as much as we could to eliminate the losses. And I've listed for you the losses in our cafeterias. Much less significant than after Matthew. So we are learning. Unfortunately, the events are terrible, but we are learning lessons, and that's the mitigation. Athletics, We lost 11 days of practice for fall sports. All high school football teams canceled at least one contest, and the Varsity High School Athletic Association did move the fall athletic sports back 1 week, with games ending on November 9th. That concludes my report, my preliminary report for the operational impact of Hurricane Florence. I entertain any questions that you may have.
Like I said as in the beginning, I'd like to thank everyone for what they did. I know Superintendent Williams was kind of keeping us updated on what's going on. He was telling me about everything being moved out of the bus garage and all, so that's a great job. So thank you, Mr. Hardy. We'll stay with you on and talk about student discipline.
Yes, I'm happy to report our Lenore County Public Schools discipline for 17-18. There's an asterisk. The following results are based on preliminary data submitted to DPI and compiled for local comparison. The data is currently being refined and processed by North Carolina Department of Public Instruction and may differ from the results below. The official report is scheduled to be released in the spring semester of 2019. First, I will start with our reportable offenses. Those offenses are the most serious in nature that requires that they be reported to law enforcement. As you see, we had a decrease in most areas. We did have an increase in assault on school personnel with no injury. We did have a slight increase in the possession of a controlled substance. But overall, we had many decreases with a total of 1 increase from the 16-17 school year. And there are a list of our reportable offenses for you there. And here are the categories, subcategories for our reportable offenses. You see possession of marijuana, controlled substance, the use of controlled substance. Our issue definitely is the possession of marijuana, and we had 24 instances of that last year. And we had 2 in possession of another controlled substance that was not marijuana. We also had 2 possession of alcohol cases in our school system last year. I'm happy to report, and Ms. Herring just shared with you the increase in the graduation cohort percentage. In my opinion, this is a direct correlation to the decrease in number of suspensions and expulsions in our school district. When students are in their seats, they learn. If they learn, they're successful, and they're successful, they graduate. I'm happy to report that we had 378 less suspensions than we did in the 16-17 school year. We went from 2,203 suspensions. That's not days, they're suspensions, actual suspensions, not days. Days could be astronomical, depending on if they're 1, 3, 5, or 10-day suspension. We decreased by 378 over the last school year. So I thank principals for their strong effort to decrease the number of suspensions. That doesn't happen by accident. That is a strong effort by all 17 of our principals. And I believe the #1 factor is they are building relationships with their students with the use of other tools as well. PBIS is absolutely one, but they are building strong relationships in their buildings at the teacher level, the principal level, the nurse level, the custodial level, the cafeteria worker level. They are building relationships, and they're doing everything possible to not send a kid home from school. Suspensions by gender and race. As you see, in our black subgroup, there were 12% less black female suspensions from the prior school year, 39% less in 2 or more race, and 9% total in our female population. The American Indian population was an 83% decrease in suspensions, and no long-term suspensions in the female gender last year. Male, there was a 26% decrease in the number of black male students suspended from the prior school year, and a 35% decrease in 2 or more race, and a 19% decrease overall. I want to stop and thank Mr. White as well for helping me compile this presentation tonight. So thank you, Mr. White, and your team. The most frequent reasons for suspensions. I think this is something to point out as well. Mr. Anderson, if you recall, we had a long conversation about how do you define disrespect, how do you define aggressive behavior. I think our principals heard you, I heard you, our counselors heard you, and as you see, there were 217 less incidents of disrespect for staff. We're still trying to define disrespect because we know it's defined differently at school to school, but we're trying to have some commonality in what constitutes disrespect, and does that disrespect result in an out-of-school suspension. So our principals are working hard to decrease these numbers. So we had 61 less suspensions for fighting, 92 less for disruptive behavior, and 217 less in disrespect to staff. And we did have an increase in insubordination, aggressive behavior, and inappropriate language. So we know what our targets will be for the 18-19 school year.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Do you think some of those positives may be because of reclassifying some of the negatives?
Maybe, maybe. And that's something we'll talk about with principals. Our long-term recommendations resulting in alternative placement. As you see, there's been a steady decrease over the years. We had a slight increase this past year, but I think that results with the decrease in out-of-school suspensions. That means there are more interventions. More interventions, more phone calls home, more detention, more lunch detention, more bounce or timeout. So what I feel, and we'll meet with this tomorrow with our principals, when a student comes to that office and has had multiple interventions, including up to maybe an out-of-school suspension, our principals are more confident in recommending an alternative placement for our students because they've done absolutely everything in their power to keep that student in their building. But we'll find out. We'll have that conversation.
But I don't have to tell you there's something smelly about that.
Yeah. And we'll dig down. We'll dig down. I've also listed by male and female and by race where our numbers of our alternative placements are as well. And it's something we will continue to look at. And then my last slide tonight is the membership, percentage of membership by ethnicity at the beginning of the school year last year. It shows our district was less than 1% Asian, less than 1% American Indian, 47% Black, 14% Hispanic, 3% two or more, and 36% white. That's how our schools broke down at the start of the school year last year. I'll entertain any questions that you may have.
It's just if you juxtapose that previous slide to that slide.
Yeah.
So can we get these broken down by school?
Yes, you actually get a monthly report, but we can compile it for you.
Yeah, where it's
by
side to
school.
side.
Sure.
Kind of like what you did with this.
Sure.
Any other questions for Mr. Harvey? All right, I'll recognize Mr. White and Mrs. Lynch. They're going to discuss our digital learning initiative. Amy.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for the opportunity to present on the status of digital learning in Lenoir County Public Schools. I'm Melissa Lynch, Digital Learning Instructional and AIG Coordinator, and joining me is Mr. Charles White, Interim Director of Technology and Digital Learning Technology Coordinator. This evening, we'd like to highlight the current status of digital learning in our schools and our goals for the coming year.
Well, as always, instruction is the key piece to this initiative. But tonight I would also like to discuss several logistical items that we are particularly proud of. Each year we take the lessons we have learned from the previous year and continue to build on, very much like Mr. Harvey was saying. But as you remember, as we ended up last school year with our high schools and middle schools, deployment and moved straight into end-of-grade testing. Because of this timeline, we made a decision to prepare our devices for this school year in an effort to get the iPads out as quickly as possible and to reduce any lapse of time that the students or teachers may have. Each of our high schools, middle schools, and elementary schools had their student devices ready before school began and were able to accelerate classroom utilization and move as quickly as possible. Now, to put it in perspective, this is a process that usually takes multiple weeks for our schools to complete. However, because of the really compressed and accelerated timeline and the preparations that our schools did and the continuing lessons that we have learned, we continue every year to push them out quicker and quicker and quicker to our students and our staff. I'm also pleased to announce that, as Mr. Harvey was saying, following the many lessons we've learned from the hurricane and from Hurricane Matthew, this year we've only had a loss of 3 chargers. And if you think back to our previous year with Matthew, how we had lost multiple iPads to flood waters and stuff like that. And I'd really like to thank our parents, our students, our principals, our teachers, everyone involved, our DLSs, in making sure that all these preparations were made to really mitigate loss. So we had almost no loss at all to our iPad initiative. So logistically, our main goal has always been to minimize any disruption to instruction. This is our first year since we began our digital learning initiative that we have not had a deployment in Lenoir County Public Schools. And because of our accelerated beginning and the fact that we have no deployment this year, I'm really excited to say that this means our devices will be in the hands of our students longer than any other school year, and I look forward to really what they can do within their classrooms this year.
And so that has set the stage for, as Ms. Herring said earlier, focusing on our main thing, which is supporting effective and engaging instruction. Our professional learning goal for the year is to support teachers in maximizing and enhancing their instruction. And we plan to do this in multiple ways. One way that started earlier in the summer was that our digital learning specialists, many of them collaborated with our curriculum team over the summer to revise the guides. And they're committed to continually working with the team to provide resources and to revise as the year goes on. And this process is very helpful for many reasons, but it's especially helpful as our digital learning specialists serve as lead teachers in their schools. And so their goal is to collaboratively plan and teach with teachers. So this process has been very helpful. Additionally, we've taken a hard look at our professional development processes. Utilizing feedback from teachers and administrators, we are planning for a variety of professional development options this year with digital learning, with the goal of protecting instructional time. The professional development options that we're considering include in-service format options where the DLS and teacher will be in a classroom setting learning together, after-school optional sessions for teachers in areas that they see they have more needs, or virtual options where teachers can have self-paced online modules that are created by our DLS team. We're very excited about the possibility of virtual modules because I think this is a great way for us to differentiate for our teachers as we push for our teachers to do for our students. We're also narrowing our focus with professional development to really target key areas and topics. For example, with high school and middle school, we'll be working with teachers to support them with front-loading material and using the learning management systems in place to centralize their content. Our instructional goal for this year is to support and showcase our students' creations, their communication, and their collaboration with others. Student creation and collaboration is a key to effective instruction and student learning. We're excited to support our kindergarten through 2nd grade early learners this year with an implementation of Seesaw. Seesaw is a platform for student engagement where students can create, collaborate with classmates, express themselves, and reflect on their learning. Additionally, students are able to curate an online portfolio, which is viewable by their family members and others. So family members will have an opportunity to leave comments within each student's portfolio. The evidence of student work and parent involvement will be a great asset to our students and our families. Additionally, we're excited about our partnership with high school, with Amy Jones and our middle school and high school coding team. We feel that the language of coding unlocks potential for all students, particularly those who are drawn to creation through gaming or programming. Meaningful life lessons such as planning and revising and learning from mistakes are key outcomes when students code. This is an exciting piece of our future, and we will extend this to elementary students next year. Showcasing the excellent examples of student learning will also be a focus for us this year. We plan to offer scholarships to schools to send teams of students to NC TIES, which is our annual North Carolina Technology Conference, to participate in NC TIES Student Showcase. Last year, we had a teacher from Banks Elementary send a team of 10 first grade students to NC TIES to share a creation from their class. The participation was excellent from students and from members who were there to view our students and interact with them. We would love to see representatives from each of our grade spans accepted to present this year. We also plan to have our students and teachers showcase creations for you at board meetings, because there's nothing more meaningful than seeing it from a student perspective and being able to feel the power behind digital learning and what it gives to students. Again, we thank you for your support and for your time. We absolutely believe that digital learning plays a critical role in meeting the mission, LCPS mission, for all students to be successful in an ever-changing world. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I know we're heavy into Apple, but I became aware this morning there's a program by Microsoft dealing with coding for males. And it's an initiative to address the lack of minority males in technology. Would you look into that?
Absolutely.
Sir.
Not that we can do it, but it might give you some ideas of
Absolutely.
what they're trying to do. It's
And
called
there's-
Microsoft Male Code.
Yes, sir. There's many varieties of coding programs out there. We chose Apple because we have a lot
Oh, I can
of the
understand.
items in place. But this pairs with our CTE. And even though we're a very much of an Apple district in Apple County, our CTE utilizes what is best suited for them. And in those cases, if you look in our CTE labs, you're going to find Windows machines. So we're not without those. So we're definitely something that we can look into.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Look forward to your presentations in the upcoming months.
Me too.
Be better than
us, I promise.
Now we'll recognize Mr. Adams for our financial report.
Thank you. Good evening. For your review this evening is the September 2018 financial report. The financial report summarizes budget and year-to-date activity for all Lenore County Public School fund sources. Additionally presented on the report is the local current expense fund balance as of September 30th. I would like to point out that the change in fund balance that's noted on there, a lot of that is due to timing throughout the year. We receive our local appropriation on a monthly basis. However, some of our more significant expenditures, significantly our local supplements are paid twice a year. So those timing with those revenues and expenditures account for those changes. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, Mr. Adams, we'll go into our action portion of our agenda, and we'll go over a 2018-19 budget amendment.
Yes, sir. Thank you. The budget amendment is being used to amend the working budget for Lenore County Public Schools for the year 17-18. Tonight's budget amendment affects State Public School Fund in the following PRCs: our School Technology Fund, Behavioral Support, School Resource Officers, Special Program Funds, and School Connectivity. The budget revisions have been received through 9:30.
Motion to approve the budget amendment number 1 as presented.
Motion by Mr. Hill, second by Mr. Woods. Any further discussion? All right, I'll now call for a vote. All in favor, please raise their right hand. Motion carries. And thank you, Mr. Adams.
Thank you.
All right. Now I recognize Superintendent Williams for policy revisions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, tonight, we're bringing back for your, hopefully your approval, the policy revisions from the School Boards Association, from our policy subscription with them, and these policy revisions are made in response to recent legislative changes, and we're submitting them tonight as an action item for your approval.
Move to approve policy revision.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Davis. Any further discussion? I'll call for a vote. All in favor, please raise your right hand. All right, motion carries. Thank you. Now we'll call back Mrs. Herring. Fees, fines, and charges.
I don't have that.
Field trip.
Don't have that?
That must be the old one.
I'm sorry. Out-of-state field trip, still with Mrs. Herring.
Thank you.
Put you on the spot.
It's okay, I've talked about it. There are 3 out-of-state field trip requests for the board this evening. Pink Hill has 3rd graders that would like to go to Myrtle Beach for a Christmas performance in December. The North Lenore would like, they have students attending for the National FFA Convention in Indianapolis, Indiana. And we have an out-of-state request from Contentnia Savannah. A number of their cheerleaders are attending, would like to attend with your approval, the Citrus Bowl in Orlando. And they were in a competition this summer, Mr. Anderson,
Chaperones.
where they earned points, and they earned enough points to be invited to go to the Citrus Bowl. And it is an expensive trip. I've spoken with Ms. Green, and the cheerleading squad has been doing quite a lot of fundraising, and the parents have contributed the difference. And so they're flying, which is one of the reasons why it's so expensive.
I move to approve the field trips.
A motion by Mr. Anderson and a second by Mr. Smith, I believe, to approve the 3 field trips. Without any discussion, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carries.
Thank you.
And our last action item is surplus items. Mr. Harvey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For your viewing pleasure tonight, I've attached items from our Child Nutrition Department, items that need to be deemed surplus with the proceeds returned to their department.
Yes. Move to declare the items presented as surplus.
Motion by Mr. Smith,
Second.
second by Mr. Hill. Is there further discussion? I'll call for a vote. All in favor of disposing of the surplus items, please raise your right hand. All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey. And I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session.
I move that the Lenore County Board of Education goes to closed session under Ohio General Statute 143-318.11 to prevent disclosure of confidential personnel files, to consult with the board's attorney in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege and consider matters relating to initial employment of an individual employee.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Davis. All in favor of going into closed session, please raise your right hand. Motion carries. We're now in closed session. And I will entertain a motion to approve the personnel report.
Move to approve personnel report with the addendum.
Mr. Smith,
Second.
Second by Mr. Anderson.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to recuse myself from the vote, please. I have a family member on the personnel board.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the personnel report, please raise your right hand. Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adjourn.
Mr. Anderson has the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Davis. All in favor of adjourning, please raise your right hand. Motion carries. Thank you.